As a kid growing up in the 2000s, I had all the time in the world to play all the games I could manage. As a man approaching 30, I don't, and something tells me you don't either. So come with me as I delve into Psychonauts for a dozen hours and let you know if it's worth your time. I am going to be grading Psychonauts according to 6 different criteria that I have ranked according to their impact on the feel of the game. Those 6 categories are level design, gameplay, story, characters, world, and art. I will not only be ranking each category on a scale of 1 to 10, but I will also be weighing the categories higher up the list heavier, as those are what I believe to be the most important pieces of the Psychonaut puzzle. The absolute bread and butter of Psychonauts has got to be the level design. Each and every level is meticulously crafted to make the player feel like they are thinking outside of the box. Each level does a stellar job at teaching you its little special trick or mechanic while not breaking the total flow of the level. I want to highlight 2 specific levels. I'll also criticize another 2 levels. The first of my praises has got to go to the Milkman Conspiracy. I think this level was the moment where the game really started to click for me. Aside from the sheer absurdity, I loved collecting all the disguises and seeing how the different spies would perceive me. Overall, it made for an incredible and a really enjoyable experience. Easily my favorite level. Such a great time. My second praises has to go to Waterloo World. Look, I love the fact that we basically got a whole open world puzzle packed into a mental world. It honestly kind of reminded me of one of my absolute favorite franchises, that being the Sly Cooper series. Those games are basically made up of several smaller, like medium-sized levels that unfold in these super creative and fun ways. And Waterloo World really captured that feeling. The first of my 2 criticisms has to go to Lungfishopolis. Look, I know, this world has been touted as one of the best, but hear me out for a second. The boss fight leading into it is so boring. And the boss fight leaving it is mostly fun, but it's also just kind of hitting the shield button at the right time. Additionally, the news broadcasts just really interrupt gameplay, and I feel like every time I'm starting to get it, it just completely interrupts me. It also just felt like a huge difficulty jump, and it led to a lot of frustration on my end. The last huge source of frustration comes from the one and only Meat Circus. It felt like a series of really cool ideas that all got me individually really excited, and then they were all just terribly executed. Like the rail grinding part, I ended up just skipping most of the rail because it was easier than actually dealing with it. Then you finally get to the boss fights, and it feels like that they just kind of never end. The one with Oleander's dad didn't really require me to use my psychic abilities either. All I needed to do was dodge his attacks and slap him in the face. They have these awesome abilities that they introduce to you throughout the game, like confusion and clairvoyance. And then there's just no way to implement them into the actual final boss fight. It just felt very underwhelming of a final test. Now, the rest of the levels in the game are totally tubular, guys. You start off with basic braining and Sasha's shooting gallery, which both of them serve as incredible hidden tutorials, and they do this great job of slowly revealing different mechanics. Mila's dance party also hits its own total vibe, and it feels like a genuine party. Gloria's theater can get a little annoying. It just feels like you're constantly trying to redo the same thing almost over and over again. But it does have some great dialogue. Black Velvet Topia had a really fun series of mini boss fights. And once you finally get the hang of all of them, the rug gets yanked out from under you in a really cool way that makes you go back and re-explore the level again. Overall, I really did love Black Velvet Topia. Each level throughout the game does a really good job at introducing new gameplay mechanics and gimmicks specific to it. whether it's like using your psychic abilities in like some kind of really cool way, or if it's just interacting with the world. Gloria's theater leans really hard into interacting with the world, as it has you constantly changing between different scenes and tones to tell the story of Gloria's childhood. It was a really cool setup. Overall, for the entirety of Psychonauts level design, I think I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. Moving on to gameplay, each of the psychic abilities have all of these really cool ways to allow for really creative interactions around the world. One of my personal favorite uses of clairvoyance is that you can use it to look through the eyes of Lily, the love interest, to see how she interprets Raz. And she's the only one in the game that really just sees Raz as himself. And it's this really cute little interaction that I really did. It made me fall in love with those two characters a lot more. By far, my most used psychic ability was levitation, which is kind of funny because whenever the game first was introducing it to me, my first thought was, what the hell is this crap? It works completely differently than you would expect from something called levitation. You're essentially using Aang's air skeeter from Avatar: The Last Airbender to just kind of run around on the world. And then you can, like, to cross over a long gap, you can basically use it as a balloon to float across. It's really silly, and I really enjoyed it. Just about all of the other psychic abilities are super self-explanatory. I don't mind them being simple because sometimes less is more, you know? For a quickfire round, marksmanship lets you shoot enemies, shield acts as a shield, invisibility lets you be invisible, pyrokinesis lets you set stuff on fire, telekinesis lets you move stuff, and confusion turns you into a blue bat in a cave trying to assault a 10-year-old. For the pure amount of fun that I had messing with these psychic abilities, I have to give the gameplay a 9 out of 10. It's at around about this point in the video where I want to explain a little bit of my philosophy whenever it comes to building and working on a game. The best games focus on a few core ideas. For Psychonauts, it's the level design and gameplay. Everything else that goes into your game needs to do everything it can to support those two. And the rest of the remaining categories, I think, are acting as support for those two. Moving on to the plot. The plot of Psychonauts is a bit wild. Massive spoilers ahead until the timestamp that you see on the screen for anybody interested in staying away from that. You arrive as Raz to Whispering Rock Summer Camp after running away from your circus home because your dad hates psychics despite the fact that he probably is a psychic. The counselors each teach you some of the basic psychic powers before you get eaten by a mutated fish that Oleander is possessing to be able to kidnap children and extract their brains for the purpose of powering his own experiments. A plan which is ultimately thwarted with some help from a very flirtatious turtle. The plot is simple to follow and a lot of fun to engage with. I'm going to give it another 9 out of 10. The main cast of characters is a very fun group that all have super distinct personalities from one another and are all super memorable. You've got Sasha, who is very logical and calculating. You've got Mila, who's very fun and very vibrant in her overall personality. You've got Oleander, who makes his time in the military his entire personality. Then you've got some of the campers like Dogen. And Dogen, he's so iconic. When Dogen's brain gets stolen, everyone else responds with, "Oh, Dogen? He's just like that." Which, like, on the one hand is so funny, but it's also really cruel, you know? Like, even the counselors say that. And last but most certainly not least, you've got Lily, who tries to put on this mask of being super tough, but obviously has a massive crush on Raz. However, outside of the main cast, a lot of the campers are entirely forgettable without a second thought. Some are still iconic. I'll never forget the Russian kid who wanted to fight Bear. I think that the milkman will haunt me in my dreams for years to come. But despite the forgettable characters, most of the characters are just oozing with so much personality that you really can't help but love them. I give the characters of this game an 8 out of 10. The world building is surprisingly deep, all the way down to animals near the campground becoming psychically charged to make for a whole new campground experience at night. I was thoroughly shocked by how detailed some of the lore surrounding the game was. Not to mention Cruller, who has his mind fractured in some events that were prior to the game, and the only way he can keep his thoughts straight are by being physically near Psychonauts, a new type of mineral that they came up with for the game. There's also the collective unconscious, which Cruller tells you that every unconscious mind is always connected to each other, which has some terrifying implications if you really start to think about it. Additionally, the world truly feels lived in, especially during the day whenever all the campers are walking around and they're all playing games and they're all chatting about their own little experiences and things. The world building is really cool, and I feel like there's a lot of rabbit holes that you can jump in. I'm going to be giving the world building an 8 out of 10. The graphics are charming for a game that released on the Xbox and the PlayStation 2. Obviously, they'll be a bit dated by today's standards, but the art style works well for the game. It's just kooky enough to suit the game and its themes really well. I just kind of feel like that there are other games from the PS2 era that have just aged better in this department. Ultimately, the art style serves the game well. For that, I'll be giving the graphics a 7 out of 10. Crunching all of those numbers into my little formula I came up with, Psychonauts earns a very respectable 276 points out of a grand total possible of 310, or, in more common reviewee numbers, approximately an 89 out of 100, locking it firmly into the upper echelon of the gaming world. All that being said, where does that leave us in particular? Is this game worth a dozen hours of your precious free time? Yes, absolutely. Honestly, I didn't even 100% my playthrough of the game. And according to the in-game timer, I only spent about 8.5 hours actually playing the game. This game can absolutely service you for a weekend. The game at full price on Steam is currently listed for $9.99 US. And it has gone on sale before for, I kid you not, as little as 89 cents. At either of those two price points, the game is well worth it and can absolutely entertain you for a weekend. So please, go out and become a Psychonaut. You will not regret it. Thank you so much for watching until the end of this video. I know that some of you out there are interested in seeing the full gameplay, which is why I left a link in the description to an unlisted video. It is the full, unedited, raw gameplay. It's just under 12 hours of footage. If that's your thing, go nuts. If not, don't even worry about it. If you enjoyed what I had to say, thank you so much for watching the video. I do plan on trying to upload one of these quote-unquote dozen hours videos every 2 weeks on Fridays, hopefully. So let me know that you enjoyed the video by hitting the like button. Let me know what game you would love to see next by typing up a comment. And get notified when the next video is up by hitting the subscribe button. What I'm going to do up next might be uncomfortable for some of you, and if that's your situation, that's okay. Feel free to click off. It's at this point where I would like to read a passage from Scripture and bless all of you before you go. Our passage today comes from the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 7. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Along with that, I want to say, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. and may he lift up his countenance toward you and give you peace. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for watching.